My role title here for the Rūnanga is Kaiwhakahaere Te Tiaki Taiao, or Environmental Operations Manager. So I do the front end stuff for our operational staff. You probably see them floating about today wearing dull colours like I'm wearing and a bit of high-vis just to mix it up. Yeah, that's who I am. Jordan?
Kia ora koutou. I'm Ashleigh Sagar. I also work in the Ahurea Taiao team, more in the Taiao part. Not obviously, but I'm Uri of Ngāti Toa. And my main mahi that I look after is climate change and environmental sustainability. And Aimee.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa. Ko Aimee rei Bishop tōku ingoa. He uri tēnā no Ngāti Toa Rangatira, Ngāti Huia, Ngā Ruahingarangi a Taranaki Tutu. So I'm also in our Ahurea Taiao team as an RMA advisor, and I do a lot of the mahi around our treaty strategic relationships and the policy and legislation space. So kia ora. Yes? Yeah.
Tēnā tātou katoa, no Taranaki ahau, Ngāti Rua Nui Ngā Rauru, I te Pākehā ahau I raro I te koro waiaroha o Ngāti Toa Rangatira. I'm Paula Collins. I work alongside my lovely cousins, hoa, whānau. I feel very privileged to be here at Ngāti Toa, looking after the kaupapa of Ahurea Taiao. Kia ora.
So I think we're just going to start to just give you some broader context around how we work, and then it'll get more specific to Waimāori towards the end. So yeah, kia ora.
Cool. So we thought that we'll just start off with showing the rohe of Ngāti Toa Rangatira. So the rohe of Ngāti Toa extends from Whangaihu River, south along the ranges to Tirakirai, and it then crosses Raukawa Moana, Cook Strait to Marlborough and Nelson. So for those people that don't know, this is just a bit of a visual on the rohe of Ngāti Toa. And so in our Taiao team, we're about nurturing a resilient environment to sustain future generations. Some of our key focus areas are, of course, whakapapa, active kaitiakitanga, connection to our whenua, our Waimāori and the moana for our whānau and our iwi.
Hopefully you all know Te Ahurea Purirua. While it's not fresh water, it does receive fresh water from it, the streams that are surrounding it. It's a it's a very significant site for us because it was, our mahinga kai was the way we feed ourselves. It was one of the reasons we chose this particular spot because it reminded us of kawhia. And over the last 56-ish years, it's been getting really, really bad, but obviously prior to that there was still some sort of pollution, degradation and land reclamation. So one of our big things that we're trying to do is active kaitiakitanga, so that's through our kaitiaki monitoring programs. We've done about 5, let's say 4, just so we can be, we have done that. 4 cockle testings in the harbour in different points, and that's helping us to build a picture of what that is, kind of go along with our mātauranga to kind of help give it a bit more teeth, fewer teeth. So climate change and environmental sustainability, these are kind of 3 ways that we're kind of fulfilling this aspiration of the iwi, which is, the first one is Te Aroha Raukawa Moana. This is a Deep South research project that Robert and I are leading, and it's about understanding our voyaging history between the two islands, because back in the day we would go back and forth quite frequently. The supermarkets was all along the coast, so you had to go, to be able to get to those spots, you didn't go by land, we went by waka. And so it's understanding all those tohu and all those stories that we may not be able to, my generation certainly doesn't have compared to my nan's generation, who has a lot more mātauranga in that space. The next is our mai titi Taiao Wānangas, and this is our tamariki space, where we're teaching them and kind of teaching them young so that we can retire and they can take over our roles, because clearly we can't be here forever. So this is all about succession planning, and it's about getting our kids out of the Taiao, and then, but not just being in the Taiao, it's also about mahi toi and mahinga kai, because the reason why we are such a big part of restoring the Taiao is so that we can create beautiful things with it, but also we can eat from it. And then our last one is our kai sovereignty space, which is about restoring different mahinga kai sites. It's about getting mara in our backyard so that our people know where our kai comes from, and that we're able to sustain ourselves if and when some sort of disaster happens and we are all, we only have to rely on ourselves. This is about us, doing our mana motuhake, which is super exciting. Oh, there you go. This is it.
Hopefully you can hear it.
This is much.
The Māoridī Māori is a Māori lunar calendar. It's a timekeeping system which our tūpuna Māori, our ancestors, utilised to keep them informed on what time of the year it was, what things were in season, when they should be working, when they should be resting. I work for Te Rūnanga o tō Rangatira. We are the mandated authority for Ngāti tō Rangatira, which is the iwi, which is based here in Porirua. We have interests up to Rangitikei and over to the top of the south, to Tauihu. I'm sort of the Kaumanaki, the Paumanaki whenua, Taiao operations manager, and our work stream involves everything from pest weed control, pest animal control, fish passage remediation, landscape restoration, plantings, and all those sorts of things. I feel like I've always had sort of a base understanding of what mātamataka is, but I suppose it's in the last 5 years it's really become more prevalent, and mātauranga Māori sort of being pushed nationwide. It's really shined a light on the mātauranga, or the knowledge that were given to us from our kaumata, from our elderly. It's sort of been within the iwi for a long time. We're an environmental team, and the mātamataka really is about looking to the environment, to the Taiao, for tohu or signs. It really made sense to sort of break away from just utilising the weather to plan work and actually looking at wider environmental science to start to dictate how and when we do work. When we put it into sort of a trial period, we broke it up into 3 main phases. So the mātamataka is a waxing phase, a full moon phase, a waning phase. We broke our working periods up into those higher energy periods. We had weed control work happening in our waxing phase, we had planting work happening in the full moon phase. The waning phase is largely sort of based around the tangaroa phase, which is the atua, the deity associated to water. So we do a lot of monitoring work, testing our mahi kai, our health stocks, and then around the harbour here, might have sort of like 5 to 8 days where we're sort of really trying to focus on getting work done in the environment and utilising the energy that the environment's giving us. And then a smaller sort of low energy period where we just go hands off, focus on resting, spending time with family. Yeah, there are a few team members who struggle, emotionally or spiritually, or a combination of both, with particular phases of the moon, and having the opportunity not to have to come in and so they can go into their shell and sort of just re-energise. It was a big sort of draw card. For the most part, they loved it, which has been rising in popularity, so the opportunity for us to get familiar with it, to use it in practice, was hugely exciting for a big part of our team. Genealogically, we are descendants of the whenua, of Papatuānuku in the land, so it made sense for us to work in sync with it. We're not separate from, we are a reflection of, and that has benefits both on the environment and the work that we're trying to do to help protect her, to help support her, as well as us as tangata, as human beings. What's the next slide? The mana, our ancestors, and so us to keep them informed on.
Yeah, so that was probably a good way for me to start, because it does a better job than I can of sort of explaining what we do and how we do it. I'm going to talk. I've been asked to talk specifically about one area of our work streams, so maybe just about one here, potentially, and that is the kaitiaki monitoring.
Just shooing around.
I don't know, is it the kaitiaki monitoring?
Yeah.
What have I got on the agenda? The kaitiaki monitoring. So, Aimee's handing out a bit of a probably one per row, probably, to be honest, Aimee. I think there's only like 12 in there.
Saving trees.
Saving trees, sorry, finally, just pass it down and have a look. It's all about it's all about conservation.
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll leave that where it is. That's sort of what we do. That's how we do it. The kaitiaki monitoring framework is something that I put together and that we deliver as a unit. as an indicator for the health of the Taiao. So as we do our mahi, we're constantly referring back to this monitoring framework to get at that data, to paint that picture on the health of our framework. We've got a few goals in the sort of the operational space. One of our primary ones is we want to be able to return a portion of our diet to traditional diets. Because it's that returning to those traditional diets that actually gets us out into the Taiao. We're building connection with the environment. We're keeping the knowledge that's associated to those practices alive, as well as the customs. To give you an example of a custom associated with food gathering practices, the kireru, eating kireru, that was something that we would do and we would harvest and give to our wahine, to our pregnant wives, just before or just after giving birth because of the iron-rich properties. So that's just one example of the customs that we want to be able to protect and preserve, because it's those things that make us uniquely us, as uri of Ngāti Tō, as Māori. So in keeping those customs alive, those traditions alive, we know who we are. We've got a better sense of self and identity. So the monitoring framework is an attempt, I suppose, to put some tangible sort of numbers around mātauranga monitoring. And mātauranga monitoring, I suppose, is sort of like what you see, how it makes you feel, looking for those sort of different indicators to paint that picture as Māori, and then giving it some numbers. So we get a little bit sort of caught up, I think, trying to put numbers to everything. You know, it can seem like a really Western thing to do. So it's a little bit conflicting for us sometimes, but this is that attempt to sort of take what we're feeling, what we're seeing when we go out into a space, what our kaumata, what our uri, what our people feel when they go into spaces, and giving that some tangible numbers so that we can track it. So it's broken down real briefly into atua, or deity. For the Māori, our atua, we don't have sort of a god that sort of sits above us, and we're sort of more connected. Our atua are more personifications of the environment. So for those who don't know, I'll just sort of break it down real simply. Tāne Mahuta, who's the deity associated to the forest. Tangaroa, who's the deity associated to Tangaroa. And we whakapapa directly to these deity, in particular Tāne Mahuta. So the framework's broken down into those sections, I suppose. And in those, we've got particular indicators. So I think for Tangaroa, I hopefully put it in there. This is just a snapshot of it. I just took the ones that I thought would be relatively appropriate to our... Oh, I did Tangaroa, yeah, beautiful. I got Tangaroa in there. There's Maru in there, beautiful. I did this last week, I'm too onto it. Stream clarity, sedimentation, fish site, stream cover, and then we give those things numbers. So when we're monitoring a particular site, and then that is basically a manifestation of the feeling that we get in our puku. Emotions, there's a strong connection between the puku and the emotional brain for the Māori. You know, we sort of feel like it comes from here. So this part of this framework is called Te Rongoā Puku. And I should actually mihi to our whanaunga from Ngāti Koata, Uncle Rusley, who provided the initial framework for this for us to work off, and we've sort of just adapted it to suit. So we do a lot of this monitoring in and around our freshwater streams. We've only sort of started this off in the last sort of 7 to 8 months with Taupō Stream and with Bothamley, and with our partnership with PCC coming up, we're going to be able to expand that monitoring framework across more streams within our region as part of the riparian planting project, which Bailey and Brian are going to talk on a little bit. And ultimately what this will do is it will start to inform our practices. It will give us a snapshot of the state of health of our awa, of our streams, which we can utilise, but then that also informs sustainable harvest. We want to be able to get back to a point where we can sustainably and ethically harvest our traditional kai. At the moment we know that we can't do that for a lot of our kai. Tuna, we've got to be really particular and careful around tuna. given it's the state of decline that tuna is in at the moment. So this will hopefully be able to inform our people on what streams they can go to harvest, whether or not they're healthy, whether or not it's ethical, sustainable to take from those streams. So we're informing those gathering practices, as well as providing a state of health of our wider Taiao. So I'm speaking in particular just to streams here, but we try and apply this to all areas, all of our natural significant areas, all of our tutohu whenua. We've got one for manu. We want to be able to go back to harvesting manu. Obviously it's not going to be in the short term, in the next 5 to 10 years. It's probably going to be a 50-year, 100-year, a 200-year goal, but we want to start putting steps in place that we can start getting back to those customary harvests. Even if it's just for like a kaupapa order that's once or twice a year, and then giving back to sort of 30-40% of our people's diets, getting back to those traditional kais. So you've got a couple of pictures here. This is my little brother, actually, Dawari, who did a little bit of work for us for 4 months, doing some monitoring of the tuna. This was on Taupō Stream. For this monitoring event, it was actually an upgrade work that Wellington Water was doing, so they were pulling out all the water out of Taupō Stream. What's Taupō Stream? Stein Ave. If you guys know the stream associated to Stein Ave, the Plimerton Railway Station. And we can also utilise those smaller projects to implement some of this monitoring. So this was really interesting. At the start of this monitoring project, it was pumping. There must have been around 40 tuna we pulled out in our first monitoring event. As the work started to start, and up to 3 months after the work, we're only getting 1, 2, 3 tuna at a control in a test site. So that work had sort of really bad impacts on the mahinga kai. We're going to go back in 3 months' time and test again and see how they're going and if they're coming back. But it's this framework that's allowing us to paint those pictures, and it's a long-term project for us. It's not just a snapshot. We want to be able to do this for the years to come and just keep providing that picture, that state of health. So I think I've done it. Yeah. I've winged that probably as much as I probably need to. Any pata? No? Cool. Sweet. Was there something else in it?
Huh? I'm very sure we don't. No pata? We have no pata.
Is there a question?
Yeah, sorry, yes.
Oh, yeah, questions.
Any questions? We're our bad.
Yeah, I live up in the other catch and I took the inside, and I was just wondering if there's any work to restore the proper names to the streams, because we don't call it the Porirua stream there. We've been, in the last 20 years, forced to call it Porirua by regional council, but we always do it in history as a so I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah.
Robert?
Maybe Robert. Is Robert here?
He's right there.
Robert is leading at a higher level, we're putting together an iwi environmental management plan which pulls all of our mahi together and gives us some sort of strategic oversight and direction. That work's happening at the moment. It's being led by Robert, who's we're really lucky for Robert because he's unreal at research and he's pulling a lot of these names out of the woodwork. So Robert might be able to...
But absolutely, that's something we do.
Yeah.
Because there's a conflict between Wānanga City Council and Porirua City Council. They're not working together, and the funding isn't working well.
Yeah, good luck getting your crown together.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ko here, aho. Did I see a leg hold trap in your little video?
Yep.
You're actually putting leg hold traps?
Yeah, we do. So leg holds...
It surprises me because if you're a Kiwi, they walk into them, wouldn't they?
Yeah, no Kiwi, we are no walking birds. This area hasn't had any management. It's Māori land, and Māori land doesn't qualify for government funding for management. So we've been very lucky over the past 3 years that we have received funding to do some work, and because of the lack of birds, ground birds or flying, we...
So you're saying when you get ground birds, you remove the leg hold traps?
Yeah, at the moment it's a monitoring technique that we use because it enables us to utilise the resource that comes with possums. So it's just a monitoring tool at the moment, and an elimination tool.
I mean, you can do possum traps on ngahera and trees.
Yeah, we do. We do a combination.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a combination. We've got automatic traps. We don't use pesticides at the moment, but leg holds is something we do because it's actually about connection. We don't want to just leave poison in our forest and then sort of just have something.